Welcome back, guys. I know we skipped a week on you. Sorry about that. Waleed and I just got a little busy. But hey, guess what? The UFC was not too busy, and they still brought us an awesome night of fighting. UFC Apex 3, I believe is what they're now officially dubbing it. The main event, Curtis Blaydes versus Volkov. If you listen to anything Curtis Blaydes said coming up to the fight, he said that if you were looking for a 25-minute standing war, that you should not watch this fight, that he plans on going in there and ragdolling his opponent for 25 minutes. You can't blame the guy. I mean, he almost did just that. But let's, we'll get into the card here in a second. Wally, what have you been up to, man? How have you been?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. Been a busy week for both of us. So yeah, it's good. Like we finally find some times to record a podcast.
No, for sure, man. We're gonna have this whole schedule thing. Me and Waleed's schedule just got kind of crammed crazy right now, so we'll figure out our whole scheduling thing and get it all down to a nice little schedule and have something out, hopefully, on the same day every week for you knuckleheads. But if not, just fucking deal with it, all right? Suck it up. Now, like I was talking about, the fight, UFC on Apex 3, the main event was good. The co-main event was great. But I think about the one thing that you're going to come out talking about the most is the very first fight of the night. And Austin Hubbard was the man who won that fight. But I don't think he's the man you were going to be talking about the most. Max Rochoff, I butchered his last name, but who cares? Max went obviously into this fight on 5 days notice. Hats off to the kid for even accepting that fight. Obviously only having 5 fights before this fight, this being his 6th professional fight. He was a college wrestler. He was a great college wrestler. Then now, obviously he's trying his hand at MMA. His 6th fight, stepping into the UFC, 5 days notice, kind of a big and tall order for the kid. He looked very good in the very first round. I would, maybe even possibly give him that round with the takedowns that he had. But it was the second round where Austin Hubbard just put it on him and just showed that there's just a little bit different levels to this game. And the most talked about moment of the night definitely came in between what was supposed to be the second and third round. And Max was talking to his head coach, and he pretty much told him, I believe it was 9 or 10 times, to call a fight. I'm done. I don't have it. Call it. A lot of people have had very strong opinions on this, fighters themselves. I really can't have an opinion either way. I've never stepped in the fucking octagon. I've never stepped inside of a cage. I don't know the pressure that these guys feel. I don't even try to understand what they go through to even put themselves in there. I mean, hats off to him. It's a complete mind game just to put yourself in that cage, let alone do it on 5 days notice, let alone do it on your 6th professional fight. Yeah. Now, he quit on the stool. The kid did. You can't really blame him for that. I want to give him kudos for knowing when to fold him. You know what I mean? Because we see a lot of guys go out there and they probably know that, their opponent's getting the better of them and they're probably not going to get out of this fight. And you see them just give up and, take that rear naked choke or give up their back or, maybe lay down a little longer on that knockout, curl themselves up in a ball. Max said, you know what? I don't need to take any more punishment tonight. I don't have it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a point of view. I can see people getting mad, like professional getting mad at the corner. I can see people saying the corner was just trying to push him to go through that third round because you need to understand this is his first UFC fight. He's been working his whole life for this moment. If you're his coach, you don't want him to give up.
Exactly.
Even though, for this moment. But you need to understand also, like MMA fighters, sometimes how many MMA fighters retired and then came out of retirement? How many times?
Henry has retired and unretired already twice.
No, not him. Like him?
No, Henry.
Oh, so, okay, Henry. Yeah, but everyone, like even Chuck Liddell, like he came out of retirement. Everybody's doing that. So MMA fighters sometimes they do stuff, and 2 weeks later they say the opposite. So But my problem is with every people on social media. Everybody became a psychologist. Everybody knows everything about cornering in MMA.
Yeah.
Everybody became a specialist. Everybody know. Listen, we don't know shit. We are not.
True.
We never cornered a fighter or stepped in the cage. We don't know what's going on in their head. So.
And let's be real.
Yeah.
Every athlete is different. The way I am motivated is different from the way you're motivated.
Exactly.
From the person that's listening to this right now, they're motivated completely differently. So the way that he maybe needs to be motivated, maybe he does this a lot. Maybe this is something that has happened throughout his career, and his coaches know that, hey, you know what? Sometimes we hit a wall. We just need to walk him through that wall, get him over that hump, and we can finish this fight. You've seen plenty of opportunities where guys have got butchered in one round and came back and won the fight. I mean, Darren Elkins has made a career out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe, because of this, like the time we're at right now, where we are having these shows without the crowd, we are listening to actually the corners. We can hear everything. So we had like the Anthony Smith incident. We have this right now. I believe this is nothing new. It always happened, and in the UFC or in any other organization, you have like sometimes the fighter who doesn't want to fight no more during like the fight. So for me, it's not an issue. For me, it's something normal. I don't know why.
Roberto Duran, no mas. I mean, he sat there and was ridiculed for years for that. And it's something I feel like it should happen more. Raquel Pennington, she also told her corner that she was done when she was fighting Nunez. They sent her back out there to get finished. It's just, do you really want to put your fighter out there to go get finished? Maybe this was the best thing for him. At the end of the day, the only person that has to sit there and live with this is Max. Max has to, he either A, keeps himself up at night thinking that he made the wrong decision, or B, is happy with the decision he made and can move past it. None of us really know that until the young man speaks out. I hope, for one, and I believe the UFC is going to give him another shot. I think he deserves it. I think obviously you seen what the kid was built like, and you brought him in here for a reason. On 5 days notice, nonetheless, this is the performance he gave you. He probably only had maybe a solid 7-8 minutes in him, realistically, because he wasn't training for a 15-minute fight. He wasn't training for Austin Hubbard at all. So realistically, he maybe had 7-8 minutes in him.
Yeah, exactly. And what people also need to understand is that there's a particular relationship between the fighter and his head coach. Like the head coach,
like
actually,
father-son almost.
The coach knows the fighter way better. Like he knows stuff about his fighters, like more than we can even imagine. So maybe sometimes when they are training, he's always, because there's some type of people like they feel like they are giving up, so we need to push them a little bit, and then they bounce back and they destroy. So maybe he's this type of character. We don't know.
Take nothing away from Austin Hibbert. I feel like we spent so much time talking about Max that Austin won the fight. Austin looked great. This was his very first win in the UFC. He had lost 2 right before this. So coming out and getting this victory for him was awesome. We're going to move on because we just spent about 8 minutes and 55 seconds talking about the very first fight, and I don't think we've ever done that. That's a record here.
Yeah.
In the UFC flyweight division, the women's flyweight division, Roxanne Modafferi dropped a unanimous decision to Lauren Murphy. Now, what did you think of that fight? Obviously, Murphy was able to land way more significant strikes than Modafferi, plus those 2 takedowns. Do you think that Lauren Murphy could eventually challenge Miss Joanna Jędrzejczyk? Or sorry, not Joanna, Valentina Shevchenko. I don't know why I said Joanna.
I don't know, man. Listen, I think the UFC right now are very mad at Roxanne because she was supposed to lose the fight she won, and now she lost the fight that I feel that she would have won. She should have won,
right?
Because nothing goes to plan, But I feel like the UFC didn't want her to win her last fight, and this one she lost it, so not good for her. Lauren Taylor, good performance, solid performance. It was a solid match. So
Yeah, Lauren Murphy has looked really good in the
yeah,
flyweight division. I really think ever since she's came off the Ultimate Fighter, she's looked very, very good. She's been on this show before. Her and I talked about, she's only really lost to top flight talent, women who have either become champion, who have fought for the title.
I feel
Now,
like I feel like the next contender for those Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko title should be a fighter with a long winning streak, because those two fighters are like on another level.
no, for sure. The only problem is once you get any kind of winning streak in either one of those divisions, you get put up against one of those two women, and you normally 99.9999999% of the time you lose.
Exactly.
And that's how pretty much dominant those two women are. I mean, the only 0.00001 is when they fight each other.
Exactly.
So in the lightweight division, Frank Carmouche dropped a huge fight to the debuting Justin Guitar Hero Janus, our man. I've been telling you guys to remember this guy's name. We've had him on the show before. He is one of the coaches at Extreme Couture. He trains the amateur teams. This dude has put in his work, and in 41 seconds, he literally realized a lifetime commitment and goal come true, winning his very first UFC fight, his UFC debut in a huge knockout. Also won him $50,000 on top of it.
Yeah, perfect way, to start your UFC career, let's say, to go out, win your first fight in like 40 seconds in the first round. So perfect game plan, good for him. Camacho, I would love to see like more of him in that fight, but it is what it is.
Justin landed big, and
Yeah,
he said it after his in his post fight interview. He realized, and it was something that him and I talked about before, even in his interview that we did, months back. He talked about, he wasn't gonna be able to come into a short notice fight and have an entire 15 minutes to give his opponent. So he had to go in there and get the job done quick. He knew that. He had that in his mind way back when him and I spoke. I want to say it was almost 4 or 5 months ago. He literally laid out everything he was going to do, and I mean, went in there and knocked out Frank Carmouche. Welcome to the UFC, Justin Janus, and I believe there are some big matchups for you. I know that he talked about Jacaro Close because he beat him in a high school wrestling back in the day in Detroit, Michigan. So maybe those two will go at it in the UFC. Speaking of Jacaro Close, his girlfriend fought this last week, and she lost a very, very close fight if you don't count the umpteen takedowns that Jillian had. I believe it was 3 takedowns. She landed 3 of 4. But the most important thing that we could really sit here and talk about is, although Jillian did win the fight, she looked amazing. She had a great rear naked choke. Courtney Casey was winning the stand-up battle.
Yeah, exactly. And this is pretty much tell you how tough Jillian actually is to get that submission win late on in the third round, because you don't know
it was
exactly how the fight
something
will
that
go.
she realized with McKenzie. She tried to just stand with McKenzie.
Yeah,
Well, when Courtney hit her with that one big shot, Jillian shot right away. Like, didn't even hesitate. Like, it was something that she was already expecting. She knew she was going to get hit. So obviously, you get hit, you shoot right away, you take them down, recover, work your just. She's awesome on the ground. Really,
yeah,
really underrated. Obviously, she's been with Dean Thomas since she was 16. We're actually going to have an interview with her tomorrow. Her and I are going to discuss this victory a little more in detail. A lot of things I want to go over with her. Obviously, Dean Thomas no longer being at American Top Team and obviously doing his own thing. So I want to talk to her about that and how that it really transitioned in her whole, fight camp this last go around. But really, I want to talk to her about this fight. I mean, what an amazing performance. And to really, she didn't need to go after the win in the third round, but she wanted it just to put that exclamation point on the victory.
Are you sure about that? Like, for you, was it a clear, like, if we didn't have a finish, do you think that it was a clear unanimous decision?
I think at least 2 of the judges give for those scorecards for sure. With the takedowns, that You got to understand, in each round, Courtney Casey got taken down and was controlled for a good chunk of the round. Courtney Casey might have won the stand-up battle, but the stand-up battle was only maybe a minute and two, maybe 2 minutes max each round.
I agree with you, but you never know with those judges. So I feel like
especially in Vegas, I definitely think that she would have won on the takedowns and the ground control.
Either way, that was a great finish, and
good fight. Both girls, hats off. They went in there and did their thing. Marc-Andre Billiard is another man that went in there and did his damn thing in the second round, getting the big knockout 4 minutes and 50 seconds into it over Oskar Pachoka. Tell me, what did you think about that fight?
Well, listen, Marc-Andre is actually a tough fighter, and I feel like he may have a bright future in the UFC.
I think he does too. I mean, obviously, I've tried to interview him a couple of times. Actually, we just always first off, he's French Canadian, so he speaks French. So that's kind of hard unless I get Wally to do it.
Why not?
Knock it out.
Yeah.
But on it, I think that might not be a bad idea to do an interview in French. I mean, we might possibly get some people to listen to it in French. I mean,
yeah, it's a good idea.
Hell yeah, we're going to try that. We're going to hit him up. Anyways, great victory for him on Saturday night. I really think the sky's the limit for him. What do you think is next for him in this middleweight division? I think you could see him up against maybe like an Elias Theodora if they decide to bring him back, knowing with this whole pandemic thing going on.
Well, I don't know exactly because listen, the problem with the whole pandemic going on right now, I feel like the UFC don't have like their whole roster in hand, because half of them, like let's say some of them can fight, the other can't or they don't want to fight. The others, like, they are trying to retire or have more money. So it's chaos right now. I don't know who are willing to fight right now. So you know what? If I'm Marc-Andre, I will stay and wait for the call. And if there's someone who can't fight, I will jump in, and because you need to
stay active. Right now, you have an opportunity to stay as active as you want. If you want to get 6 fights in 2020 in the UFC, it's very possible to do it.
Exactly.
Very possible right now, because like he said, there's a shortage on fighters that they are available to use. You have seen fighters who started this pandemic have fought now twice since multiple fighters.
Look at Gilbert Burns, a fighter who before the pandemic, nobody was talking about him fighting for the belts.
He fought on the very first show without a crowd.
Yeah.
And then he fought, a couple shows back without a crowd. Now he's about to go to Fight Island and fight his teammate.
Yeah. Amazing.
Crazy.
Because, he saw an opportunity, he jumped on it.
Exactly. He was willing to take the fight. He said, fuck, who cares? Pay me. You're going to pay me, right? That's all that matters. You're going to pay me something. We're not doing this shit for free, right? Okay, cool. I'll take it. You got guys out there like Masvidal who are clear number one contenders, who have a clear beef with the champion Kamaru Usman, who could easily get this title shot. And he doesn't want to take it. They offered him the same money they offered for the Diaz fight.
Yeah.
And he said no.
He was okay. I don't know, because I feel like Masvidal, after that Diaz fight, his value went up. So it's legitimate for him to negotiate. So I'm not blaming Masvidal, even though I really wanted to see that fight. But I just want to give kudos to Burns for jumping in. People are shitting on him, saying that, why did you jump? Like, there's no solidarity between fighters. Fuck that. This is selfish sports. Everybody,
They have talked about this. I have talked to Gilbert before. I have talked to Vicente about this. Those gentlemen in that training camp have all talked about this. In that gym, in that locker room, they have discussed if the possibility, for the title, that's the only time. Has to be a title, and they'll fight. Let's go on to the fight card. The women's strawweight division, Tisha Torres won by unanimous decision against Vienna Van Buren. Tisha Torres just seemed like she was a little too much for Van Buren. The significant strikes were just completely one-sided for Tisha Torres. 74 significant strikes with 111 total strikes. Now, I want to point out, okay, so Van Buren did score 2 takedowns throughout the fight, but Tisha Torres stuffed 5 takedowns. I think that's a stat that is very underrated and not a lot of people talk about. I really think that they should talk and put more emphasis on how many takedowns you've stuffed.
Exactly. Like stopping takedowns, I feel like having a takedown is more valuable than a person stopping one, because of the offensive. Someone is going for the offense, the other one is just going for the defense. But for sure, stopping a takedown should give you some points,
especially when we're talking multiple. And another man who did just this, Bobby Green. Clay Guida went for 12 takedowns, only completed 3.
Yeah.
Whew. Bobby Green is a bad man. Those two had a lot of ill will towards each other. This fight was supposed to happen almost, I believe, 3 times. These two finally squared off last Friday night. There was a very heated weigh-in, and now they went on Saturday. Bobby Green showed that he was the way superior fighter. Total strikes 90 of 158, 57%, and his significant strikes were 85 at 150. That's 56%. He landed 2 of 3 takedowns. Now, those are winning numbers.
Bobby Green was also the second fighter that was most talked about after this show, because when he was with his dad, he sent a positive message, a good message, a strong message. So yeah, Bobby Green, great win. Great post-fight interview. 10 out of 10. I have nothing to say. A+. Good job, Bobby Green.
Another man who definitely got 10 out of 10. He's the man who opened up the main card portion of the fight card. It was Jim Miller. He went in there with a beautiful rear naked choke finish of Roosevelt Roberts. That was 2 minutes and 25 seconds into that round. Now, Jim Miller has really proven that he can withstand the test of time in the UFC. Father Time is not quite caught up to him yet. He's, of the likes of the Diego Sanchez's of the world, those guys who have just been in there forever. Yeah. 32 wins in his professional career. That's just crazy. When you really sit back and think about it, that's more than most of the guys on the main card have.
Exactly. That's crazy. I enjoy watching these fighters like Jim Miller, like Clay Guida, like you said, Diego Sanchez. Listen, they built the UFC of today. They are the reason why. Like, they elevate the level, the competition, the wrestling. They are the pure MMA fighters, the first one. Like, they can strike, they can grapple, they can do everything and anything.
And he was really put out there to, be a stepping stone for Roosevelt Roberts.
Exactly.
He really went out there and proved that he's still a very viable option in this UFC lightweight division.
This is why I love this type of fighter. There's no bullshit in them. If you are not ready to be a UFC fighter, you will lose to them. You can't beat them if you're not ready to step up really into that next level, because they're not easy matchups.
No, 100%. Another man who looked very good. It's really hard to forget this man's name. Belal Muhammad. Remembered the name. Went out there and looked very, very good against Lyman Good. Lyman Good now had looked phenomenal before this. He went in there and put it on Chance Rencounter, a good friend of ours. And now I expected him to do the same to Belal. But Belal really showed that he's got a great chin and he really belongs at this welterweight division. I would have given this fight of the night had the co-main event not been so great. Yeah. But obviously these two gentlemen went out there and gave it their all for 15 minutes. Do you agree with the judge's decision to give it to Belal, or do you think Lyman might have won?
I feel like Belal deserved the win, even though it was a close matchup.
I think it was 2 takedowns.
Yeah, those 2 takedowns really helped him get to.
Because the numbers were almost even. If you look at Belal's numbers, he had 87 strikes. Lyman had 84. Significant strikes, Bilal had 82. Lyman had 81. They were just throwing power the whole time. God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, Bilal, they need to give him a top ranked fighter. I feel like at
Listen,
this point. Yeah.
him and Vicente,
Yeah. Come on.
or the loser of this weekend's main event.
Yeah, come on. Give him he deserves it, I feel like.
Mike Perry.
Why not?
Ooh, Mike
Why
Perry
not?
below Muhammad would be fucking sweet.
Will be sweet, even though Mike Perry will have only his girlfriend in his corner. Let's
Oh
not talk
my
about
God,
that
we're
right
gonna
now.
talk about that in a
Yeah,
little bit. Let's not even.
yeah,
We
yeah.
won't even
Let's
get
not
into
open
that
up right now
bullshit.
about that because this shit is
That's a
crazy.
whole can of worms, bro.
Oh
Oh
my
man.
God. Oh my God, Mike Perry, what the fuck are you doing, man?
So in the UFC's women's bantamweight division, Raquel Pennington, got herself back in the win column, unanimous decision victory over Marion Reneau. Now, do you think Raquel Pennington could eventually get enough wins underneath her belt to challenge Amanda Nunes one more time?
Listen, why not? Like we said like a couple of minutes ago, this time you need to jump in any opportunity you get. So if there's another chance for her to fight, she needs to jump in and maybe gets, two or three more wins. Then why not? Why not give her the title fight if she wants it?
I think the winner of Holly Holmes and Marina Aldana, that's going to be the next fight. I think that's whoever wins that gets Nunes next. But for sure, Raquel gets a couple wins underneath her belts. She's right back in there. Two
Yeah.
more wins and she's definitely in the hunt. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Now, this co-main event was amazing. I believe Dana said it himself best. It would be fight of the year if it didn't happen the same year Wei Li Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk happened.
No.
Now, these two literally went out there and put it all on the line. Josh Emmett literally put it all on the line in the very first round. I believe it was in the first round. He hurt his knee. That ended up being a torn ACL and a partially torn MCL. His other injuries include fractures all along his face, obviously, and hands.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, in the really shitty part about this entire situation is Josh Emmett was going to get a huge push after this fight because of what he did in this fight. He could have really called his shot in the featherweight division, and had he beaten one of those guys like Zabit Magomedsharipov, he could have very easily catapulted himself in the next, whoever wins out of that, Max and Volkanovski.
I agree with you.
Really, the shitty part about this entire situation now is he's going to have to sit out at least 8 months. At least.
It's sad, but it is what it is. Sometimes shit happens. You think that's the end of the world.
Constantly had it happen to him.
I agree with you.
Face smashed by Jeremy Stevens. I mean, there was a lot of shit's happened to Josh Emmett. We've talked to him multiple times in the show, and he talked about just his journey to get back in the cage, and it's just heartbreaking because I've seen everything he's gone through, and I understand what he's gone through. So to see it happen just one more time, it's just like, oh, fuck. I mean, there's so many opportunities where he's thought he was going to quit, just become a cop.
Yeah, and it's sad because I feel like there's nobody stronger than him in this division. Like,
I was saying that.
I don't know how Shane Burgos even survived those. George Emmett when he hits you,
shots, man. Emmett was literally unloading the kitchen sink on Burgos, and Burgos. I mean, he knocked Burgos down a couple times. Burgos got back up. Josh Emmett, man, though, that dude has scary power for 145 pounds. I understand that Jeremy Stevens beat him, but I still think Josh Emmett has more power.
Yeah, raw power. Yeah, Josh Emmett definitely.
I just think Jeremy Stevens is probably a little more precise.
Maybe, yeah, but Emmett, dude, pure power. He's a freak. He's dangerous. He's scary. Too bad he got injured, but this is the sport that he chose. Yeah, so it is what it is.
In the main event, Curtis Blaydes went in there and did exactly what he said he was going to do, and he wrestle fucked Alexander Volkanovski for 5 rounds. Well, it was more like 4.5 rounds because he got tired as shit. All right.
Listen,
Now,
14 takedowns.
14,
Come
man,
on.
and that was in like 3.5 rounds. Okay, he just said fuck it after that. He wasn't trying it anymore. He was so tired.
Yeah.
I believe he tied Cain Velasquez for the most takedowns in the heavyweight division in one fight. Just an amazing performance for Blaydes. It was a smaller cage. It was a 25-foot cage, not a 30-foot cage. So obviously that helps the wrestlers out a lot. He knew that. He knew what his advantage was. He knew that he was going up against a guy who was much longer than him and was obviously be able to pair together, his striking better. It was officially 14 takedowns for Curtis Blaydes on the night. Just a crazy, crazy, crazy. I mean, just imagine how much output it is. I give anybody who thinks that is an easy feat to do, I give you the most utmost respect if you can go into a gym right now off the couch and land 14 takedowns on a guy who's trying to stop you. Yeah. Land 14 in a row and tell me you're not dead afterwards.
Of course,
Hell, people I'll be dead after like 3 after him, all right?
People, I think that they were criticizing Curtis Blaydes because of the trash talk he was talking before the fights.
I don't think it was really trash talk, though. I don't think all that trash. I think it was more just Curtis Blaydes just talking, stating facts. Like, hey, listen, we're going to wrestle.
Exactly. What do you want him to do with him? Like, do you want to strike against a guy like Volkov who have a huge reach advantage and he's a great strike, and he has a great striker? Like, do you want him to see him lose like Fabricio Verdum? Nobody wants that. Exactly. Yeah, take him to the ground and Khabib him.
The biggest problem for Curtis Blaydes is he's 14 and Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, exactly.
that's going to be the biggest hindrance in him getting a title shot. Francis would literally have to get injured for Curtis to get a title shot.
I feel like the heavyweight division really need a guy like Curtis because he elevates the level, with his grappling. So strikers needs to become more striker than brawler because majority of those heavyweight guys are brawler and not strikers. So yeah, he's very needed in this division. And you know what? We had fighters like him losing to the number one contenders, and then they become champions. We already had this scenario, so who knows?
No, for sure.
One injury, one or whatever.
It's a very, very interesting heavyweight division right now. There's a lot of great buildup around it, and it'll just continue to grow from here. So, in your opinion, what would you give this fight card?
I'll give it a solid maybe 3-star out of 5 maybe. It was a good card. Listen, I don't want to give it a 5-star or a 4-star because maybe I don't know, maybe the names of the fighters, I feel like those fights they will not give us like maybe title fights or some shit like that afterwards. So, but it was a very solid card. I will give you that.
No, for sure, 100%. I mean, you could realistically say that was one of the better cards that we've seen at the Apex. It just wasn't a whole lot of names on it. The Emmett Shane Burgos fight was amazing. Bilal Muhammad Lemon Good was very, very good. And then obviously Courtney Casey, Jillian Robertson, and then a huge debut for Justin Janus. I mean, there's a little bit of everything on this card. I really feel like it was one of the better ones that we've had at the Apex. And it just goes to show that, the fights are here to go, and they're just going to keep going from here. And it is an interesting time to be an MMA fan and to be an MMA fighter because you don't know when you're going to get your call up.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Now, do we have anything else on UFC Apex 3?
Not really. I feel like we talked about everything. We talked about Bobby Green's interview. We talked about the Max issue. Yeah. Other than that, so yeah, pretty good.
That pretty much sums it up for us knuckleheads. Stay tuned because we will be, doing this really quickly and getting you guys a UFC Fight Night Apex 4 preview here in a second. So if you guys wait, that should be uploaded fairly shortly after this video. So stay tuned. Like our Facebook page, like our Instagram page, like our YouTube page, Native MMA for everything. Hit the little bell so you get the notifications when we come up with our weekly videos. Like I said, we're going to be busting out more interviews. I have multiple interviews this week. Titan FC co-main event is Landon Quinones. We obviously talked to Landon multiple times. He's been dying to come back on to talk to us about this fight that he officially has lined up, and he is the co-main event for. So we're going to talk to him sometime tomorrow, most likely. And then we have Jillian Robinson. Obviously, she had a great fight this week. We're going to talk to her about her performance and obviously what's next for her, because she's obviously going to stay active and just, like you said, 1-2 wins and you're right up there.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
All right, guys, we are out.
Peace.